can see it's a bit dark. I'll put that light on. I must make some LED lights because that gets quite warm. It gets quite warm here.
It's warm in here, and it's 25.6.
Forget. What I might do at some point is buy a couple of these and get a gooseneck.
Oh, is it?
That I can make. Yeah, it's always useful because when I'm spray painting, it's nice to have a big light on it. So it will always be useful. So where's my scraper tools gone? And there's some more. Have that on screen there, with that and that, and a drink. And this is where I forget that my mic's live and I say something I don't mean to say. But good evening and welcome to everybody to the stream. And we should now be about to go live. And we're live. Of course, you'll catch up with this in about 5 seconds time, but there we go. Actually, I just realised I should change my stream title. So I shall do that. And there we go. Good evening everybody, welcome to my stream, and for today's art, well, we'll start I think with Scraperboard We shall see how it goes, because I have something else that I would quite like to do down here, down to my side, which I haven't decided whether to do that in preference to Scraperboard just yet, but I have a model helicopter I would very much like to build. Given that we're getting some nice weather at the moment, I'll just put these white gloves on. I've had this kit down here for at least a year, and it would be quite nice to fly it, so maybe on the stream a little bit later on we'll get round to building that. But for the moment we are going to try and do Earthrise. It's kind of a picture which always fascinates me. I love that image, so I'm going to have a go at doing it in black and white. We'll see how it goes. It's only my second ever attempt at Scraperboard, so I have absolutely no idea how it's going to go. This could be a complete disaster, or it could work quite nicely. But we shall see. What is worrying me a little bit is how I'm going to make a circular object in the middle. I may cheat. In fact, I'm almost definitely going to cheat. The question is, have I got something of an appropriate size to use as a template object around which I can draw? And I just pick something at random off the floor. That looks probably as though it should be big enough to do that. So yeah, I think we'll might stick with that. We'll see. See if I've got anything else, which I kind of would like it a little bit bigger, but one of these days what I will also have to do is buy some ink for Scraperboard, because ink is what you can use to colour. One is big now, they're going to be a bit awkward. It's just some buttons. I've got those to try and do a little bit of pyrography on. Don't quite know what. I did a tree on one of them, which I have no idea where it is, but they strike me as an interest. Just struck me as an interesting little piece of wood on which I could do either something on the front or something on the back, or both. But we shall see. That's for another day. Have I got something about one of these pen bases? Is that not going to be too... Get rid of the bits. No, that might be... Is that the same size? It's the same size, look at that. Give or take a bit, that's the same size. So I was about to say that looks better. It's not much different. And UK coin wise, nope, there's nothing any bigger. I don't really have anything around here, so we will probably stick with this Tamiya paint jar. I'm not going to use a compass, which I don't have anyway. I do have dividers, but I don't know where they are. Lots and lots of options, and not a one in sight. Usual sort of thing, but anyway. So, lol kid lol, good evening yet again. Yes indeed, thank you very much for joining me this evening. You're about to see some, well, I think you're about to see something new. I don't think you saw me do Scraperboard last time. I'm just looking, I'm doing a would like to do Earthrise. It's an image which has fascinated me for, well, ever since I first saw it, which basically is since the first moon landing. And I've always meant to do it because I like doing monochrome, so with airbrushing. So I've sort of got black paper, and I've always meant to do this Earthrise in monochrome, and I've never really got around to it. I've always had another image to do, so I figured I'd do that. So I've just been looking for something that to actually do the round earth with. So we're going to have a go. I have no idea what I'm doing with this. At all. As I mentioned, the last time on stream was the very first time that I did Scraperboard. And so this is the second time I've done it. And I'm hoping this isn't a disaster. So I'm just looking at the pens. I'm calling these pens, I'm calling everything pens these days, but these scraper tools. I was just trying to decide. That one I quite like, I've used that one before. There's one here that looks a bit like a gouge, I've not used. But that doesn't strike me as something that's going to be useful in this particular case. I've got one that looks a bit like a knife, that might be, but this is going to be a fairly subtle colouring, so maybe on the earth itself to put some of the clouds in, so we'll keep that to one side. We've got a sharper version, a blunter version of the sharp one I just used, which might come in useful. I've got something that looks like a rake, and will create rake-like marks. Now that might be useful. And then this one's a copy of one I've already got. Okay, don't need that, put that to one side. I'm kind of procrastinating a little bit. It's a blank canvas, and I'm about to make a mark on it, and I'm not sure I want to make a mark on it. I kind of feel like the instant I make a mark I'm going to ruin it, and then all bets are off. If I do ruin this, I am immediately going to go and move to a backup plan, which is to make a model helicopter, which I've got down the side of me. So we'll use this really sharp one, and I've now got to decide. I've got 3 reference images. I'm just displaying one of them. I'm not quite. I think I want the Earth. I don't think I want it quite as close to the horizon as the reference image shows at the bottom left there. I think I want to raise it a little bit more. It makes it look further away then. Yeah, I think it looks better further away, so we're going to put it further away. So we're going to have the moon roughly about 1/3. So this is about halfway between the moon and the top of the page. So what I kind of want to do now is to sort of dot in somehow. Just make light, if I can somehow make light marks. Don't really want to sort of make a heavy scratch. This sort of feels like it's marking, but I don't actually know, and that's the problem, is I won't until I lift this off, and then it'll be too late. Nope, I can see that. That's good. Right, so I can sort of see the mark I've made. So I just took that back away. I was about to say I'll keep my work desk clean, but given that there's thread all over there, there's pyrography machine over there, there's scissors in the middle, water over here, I think the keeping things clean thing went out the window a little while ago. Now then, the Earth itself is going to be fairly light over most of its width, so I can probably make these marks a little bit more prominent. and actually mark the actual circumference, I guess, of the Earth. I'm doing this really as lightly as I can get away with, because I actually don't know how white I want the outside edge to be. Of course, we've got the clouds, which obviously are white, but that's about as round as a square. Oh well. One thing it's useful to do, perhaps as an artist, just like in airbrushing, where you practice dots and lines and things, probably should practice creating circles as well. Just with a pencil, freehand drawing circles. You know what? It will bug me if I don't get that reasonably accurate, so here we go again. I'm going to put this jar back on and see if I can at least get a better round. Otherwise what will happen is the Earth will get gradually larger and larger until I decide it's round enough. There we go. A little bit above bump in it, but it'll do. Now then. So we got roughly that. Then we've got to do the base of the Earth. Not quite sure where the sunlight is, so we've got roughly sort of a half moon shape. There you go. How's that for a silly statement? The Earth's a half moon shape. We've got the bottom half of the moon, the Earth is in shadow, of course, so what we're going to see here is a sort of a flattened base. Now this bottom edge is in shade, of course, the bottom edge of the Earth, so I really don't want great big white thick lines. That might need to go a bit deeper, or a bit lower down, but we shall see how that goes. And we also now need to put in the moon itself. It's not a straight line, it's a sort of a large radius curve, but I'm not fantastically bothered as long as we get some sort of curve in this. Just emphasising the curve a little bit, I guess, the fact that we are on the moon. It's got the horizon is not only closer, but you can actually see the curvature. So I'm just putting a dotted line for the moment. The fact it's not flat or a perfect curve doesn't matter. Matters more for the Earth because it's a long way away. This, of course, being close, you've got all the craters and things, so it's not a great deal of a problem. It being all bumpy or not quite smooth curve or anything like that. Anyway, lol kid lol, how are you doing? I'm not sure whether I asked you, but I trust you've had a good day. I know it's a Monday morning, well, a Monday. And that's just after a weekend, but well, you can't have everything these days, unless of course you're on holiday. So anybody that's watching, apart from lol kid, who may well get a little bit tired of this, you're looking at Scraperboard. Scraperboard is a sandwich of thick paper, a porcelain type clay, which has been rolled into and pressed quite flat, and then black ink over the top. What we do then is we scrape away the black ink, revealing white underneath. Depending on how much we scrape away, the whiter it looks, and we develop the picture in that way. Can also colour it and paint it black again, generally use ink, so it is possible to sort of correct mistakes, I understand, and to colour it, which might be nice for the Earth, blue and white or blue and brown for the sea and the land masses. Only problem is I don't have any coloured ink, so this is going to be purely black and white, and it will be pure black and white. Any shading is purely an illusion. Largely speaking, I think we've got a line all the way around the Earth, so I am going to put that outline in now. I dotted it in earlier, but of course one of the things here is, in theory, I ought to do recognisable land masses, because of course that's one thing that you can see from space is recognisable land masses, whether it's Europe, America or whatever. But I'm going to cheat and not do that. I say cheat, I'm just making the decision not to do it. It's not really cheating, it makes my life easier in that I don't have to try and represent a recognisable landmass. But equally, if I was really pushed, all I need to say, of course, is that isn't the Earth, and this isn't our moon. It's somewhere out in space, so why would you expect to be able to recognise a landmass? So you can make up your own stories. One of the nice things about being an artist, you can't tell me I've got it wrong if I tell you this isn't our Earth, it's somewhere out in space. It's just my ego, of course, but that's just one of those, I suppose, little tricks. I can't be wrong if you've never been there, and neither have I. And the reference picture down at the bottom outside there is just really what's the word I'm looking for, an inspiration more than anything. I'm not intending to, other than the fact that there's a planet and a moon surface, that's about where the similarity ends. I will be using it and two other images I've got on my computer here to give me an idea what craters look like and things like that, but I am literally going to just make this up as I go along. I'm trying to make this a fairly fine and thin line because I don't really want it to stand out really light. The surface in all the pictures I've got or have looked at is this really grey sort of colour. You can sort of see it there. In some, obviously, it depends on just where the sunlight is. Generally speaking, it's straight above, because that's what's causing that sort of lit earth effect on the horizon. But sometimes it's further behind where the photograph is taken from, and then the moon surface itself is darker with less prominent markings on it. And equally, there are obviously some parts of the moon where the surface is somewhat smoother, or less cratering. Right, so there we've actually got the two main features now in the Earth and the Moon. And I've now reached the next step of going, where do I start next? I've kind of started, so at least that is a benefit, but what do I do now? Always a difficult thing. Especially since I have no idea what I'm doing. I think probably I'd quite like to sort of put some of the Earth features in. We've got some land masses. I mean, it's that's interesting. Same picture from a different perspective. Zoomed in. Okay. I've got two pictures. The one that you're looking at as a reference image is very similar to one I'm looking at as a second reference image, and the cloud markings and the position of the continents on the Earth are identical in both pictures, except the one I'm looking at, the Earth is this far above the horizon. The one you're looking at, they're touching. So it's taken roughly at the same time, just with either lower down or with a different zoom level. Right, I don't know. Let's put something that resembles clouds in. So let's just put some swirly things. Probably got some continents. Something down here. Don't know what it is. I'll have something around there. We've got some sort of large landmass over here. And I don't know if it's clouds. Tillybug, good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining the stream this evening, and how are you as well? I'm doing quite well, although it is a Monday, so you know, I had to go back to work today. Yeah, I have no idea, so we're going to just see if we can make some sort of marks in this. Clouds are probably going to be the whitest thing, but this is and the sea obviously in between is the darkest thing. So I've got to somehow get land masses which are halfway between. I'm just going to do a little bit of cross hatching and see what it turns out like. As we get down into this bottom end here, I've got to remember that it fades out to black. So I don't want really heavy white lines at the bottom. Now when I did the first scraperboard, which was a portrait, I did find sort of a style or a way of just scratching things which seemed to work quite good for me, sort of fairly random scratching. Might see if I can do the same thing here. So not trying to do any particular pattern or anything like that, just just random scratches. That's quite alright, Tilly. Thank you. I kind of could do with sort of feels like it ought to have something a little bit larger in here. And this is the brightest part of the image of the earth, shall we say, around here, where the sun's shining down on it, so I will need to sort of perhaps make these scratches darker, deeper rather, not darker. That way it looks brighter. Yeah, this bit of the top here is quite bright as well. So already you can see with Scraperboard the harder you scratch, basically, the lighter it looks, and therefore the brighter it is. Yep, that's right. It's exactly the same stuff, Tillybug. Exactly the same stuff. Except these, I bought these boards totally unmarked. I've got some silver foil ones as well, and some gold foil and copper foil. And it's the same tools, exactly the same thing. I'm just making up my own images. In fact, I actually do have a scraper board with a pre-printed image on. I got given one as a Christmas present, so at some point I shall do that as well. I would quite like to sort of put the sea in, so I just want to sort of fill in the background a little bit, just because otherwise I think it will look too dark. Potentially I'm doing this all totally wrong as well. You know, from what instructions might say or experts might say. I have no idea what it is I'm doing. What I'm doing seems to be quite successful, but I have seen a few things done on the internet in Scraperboard, and if you pick the right image, they can be absolutely fantastic things. Now then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a different tool. William! Hey William 92, good evening. Indeed she did, yes. She did, for which I am really very grateful, and I was and still am somewhat totally amazed, and anybody actually wishes to do so, but it's very gratefully received. It all helps with art materials and things like that. I am saving up for a microphone as well to stream with, because I wear a headset at the moment, and I actually dislike wearing headsets. I find them really warm. They press against my ears, and I wear glasses, so they press against my glasses as well, which is kind of uncomfortable. So I'm saving up for a microphone. Although I'm cheating, because I've loaned myself the money to save up for a microphone, so I need to repay myself. I've got one arriving day after tomorrow. So I'm now going to put some clouds on. Now the clouds are fairly white looking, so let's see if we can get sort of a fluffy-ish cloudy sort of formation. I'm sort of making like little tiny scratching marks here, but using a wider tool. Just, I don't know, it seemed to look like that's what it wanted. And copying sort of reference images, which sort of I'm not exactly copying, I'm using them as inspiration to sort of try and decide what clouds should look like. One of which reference images you've got down there at the left hand side of my screen. I've got another couple which are somewhat similar. You guys can tell me if it actually sort of looks like clouds on a distant Earth. Maybe not. Maybe this is the one that turns out to be not a very good image. The scraperboards. Oh, okay. What, doing them or looking at them? I've had quite good fun doing the other one that I did. It was very daunting. You know, when you're faced with a black sheet of paper. It's very much like the pyrography in a way. You know, the first marks are the harder ones, and I started. The first one I did, as I mentioned, was a portrait, and it was sort of looking at what would be a full face portrait, and I just don't know where to start. And gradually you add bits in, and you do a bit, and it just turns up. It certainly would be a lot easier to have a printed image to work from, but then I would lose the bit that it's mine rather than somebody else's. I'd just be executing the skill rather than the image itself. And good evening, 3D bloke. Yes, it's one of mine as well. I've wanted to do it I've wanted to do it since I started doing airbrushing, and I discovered I liked monochrome on black paper. And I've never got around to it, and this seemed an ideal opportunity to do it. You've given up looking at the comments of any video involving space. Why is that? It's still on mine. It's on my pyrography list as well. I suspect I could probably put it on my punch graph list. And maybe even my rug making list. Maybe not rugs. Black. Well, black wool would be fine, but it wouldn't have to pick up the dust. I'm people. Are you calling me dumb, William? 3D bloke is also people. Oh yeah, it's fun. It's conspiracy theorists. Generally speaking, they don't understand physics. Yeah, because that's a seemingly good description there. Because of people. Mind you, I'm still in two minds about whether to actually do this, so I've got a helicopter kit I want to put together. With the nice weather in the UK at the moment, I've had a kit down the side of my desk here for over a year, and I kind of would love to actually build it. So I did half think about doing that on stream tonight. As in, I've got to build it anyway, so I might as well do it on stream type of thing. Well, I don't know if that's something you guys are interested in watching. Me build a model helicopter kit. That's a flying helicopter kit, remote control, not a plastic model. Yeah, I've been at work doing my profession during the day, and I've been looking it out the window. It's kind of daft actually, because I could go sit out in the garden. My Wi-Fi is probably good enough to do that. Well, I may do a bit of this and then switch over to do a bit of that. Don't know exactly how long it'd take. Just to get a little bit of difference in. It's weird. Once you start streaming, it's kind of, well, for me, once I started streaming, because I do so many different crafts and things, I kind of can't really decide what to do, and whilst I don't make a habit of making helicopters and things like that, it is still kind of a craft. It's an easy kit to build, he says, thinking it should be, because it's a kit mainly, but that earth is going to need some more work on it, but at least it's a start. I've got I've got a T-Rex 250, which most of you guys probably have no idea what that is, but it's a small helicopter. I'll show you. And I've got a couple of spare bodies for it, which I got specifically for the purpose of airbushing them, which I've never got around to do. In fact, I got lots of things with the specific purpose of airbushing and never got around to doing it. But here we have it won't actually even go in on screen. This is a smallish helicopter, and of course you can't even see it on stream. I shall zoom out, shall we say? Even then, it's still fairly sizable. It's only about 18 inches long, though. But there, I've got a few spare bodies with the intention of airbushing them, but again, love flying that little thing. Normally, bigger helicopters are more stable, but that one's quite a stable little so-and-so. I actually prefer it to my big one. The big one's a little bit intimidating because I have to do it in a small space, and the big one's only twice the size. Not the same size as 3Ds. That is a big one. I've not flown one of those for years now then. Okay, well, obviously 3D knows what a Roy Lichtenstein style is. I have absolutely no idea. Would you care to explain it, William? So then if there's anybody else as well who has, like me, who has absolutely no idea what it is, then we shall be further enlightened and have learned something. If anybody's wondering why I'm wearing white gloves, by the way, I know some people have mentioned it makes me look like I'm CSI. It's purely so I don't get finger marks on the black. I know if I get them on I can rub them off, but it's just so I don't get them on there in the first place. You'll have to find it. Oh, William, you come out with these big titles. You don't actually know what it is. How do you know you're doing it if you to go find a wiki article? Oh dear. Come on, you should know what it is. That you're going to have fun free. As I say, make sure it's got a gyro though. You'll find it a lot easier. I'll fly a quad. They're easier to fly. I did say easier. And I know some of the quads are so stabilised these days that it doesn't take much to fly them at all. But I'm kind of just doing random lines here because it feels like that's more representative of the surface, and then when we get like craters or brighter areas, I can then just do a little bit more scraping in a particular area. Yeah, the real ones use gyro assisted on all three axes. So. Tell you what, William, you've never, and Free I suspect have never been around a 10cc helicopter with its blades spinning. It's kind of not something to joke about, really. Those things they're probably only doing about 3,000 RPM on the big ones, but the tip speeds are I'm trying to think what it'd be, but they're certainly approaching several hundred miles per hour, the tip speeds at that, because you've got something like a 4.5 foot blade radius, so you're talking about a 6 foot diameter blade disc, rotor disc, at 3,000 RPM. Those tips are shifting, and they do hurt. If they get hit, or if they hit you, I have stopped a 10cc motor that way. I was hopping around for quite some time because it hit my leg. Ninja Cats, good evening, welcome. Thank you for coming back to the stream and joining us this evening. That's very kind of you. I'm doing Scraperboard, well, at least the initial part of this evening I'm doing Scraperboard. I may well switch to making a model helicopter, a quad helicopter kit up a little bit later on, since I've had it for over a year now and I'd quite like to do it. So, and how are you today then, Ninja Cats? You wouldn't particularly think just doing this would blunt this, but I just turned it over and it feels a lot sharper than it did a minute ago. But I guess I'm dragging it through dried clay, I guess, so that's an abrasive, so it must be blunting things a little. How do you come to that conclusion, William? It's like a comic book. Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough. Yeah. I'm doing quite well, thank you, Ninja. It's a bit warm in the studio. 26 degrees, that's what, 50, 80, 82, 83, something like that in those funny Fahrenheit scales. But it's been a nice day up in Yorkshire today. Started off looking a little bad, and sort of as generally being sunshine, but a little bit variable. Warm in the sun, cool in the shade. I think this is one of those pictures that's going to work best actually with coloured earth, as opposed to just a black and white like this. May have to perhaps get some inks and then try, come back and do some colouring on there. I suspect that's part of the allure or whatever of the image itself, is those subtle colours. It is surprisingly hard, William, especially if you're talking about remote control, and helicopters even harder. You think, dear? Let me give you an example. I have actually flown the real Concorde simulator, the one and only simulator that was down in Filton, and I was there with 4 other people, 3 other people, there were 4 of us. Now, I've flown model aircraft, which are real physical aircraft, and they're challenging enough to fly because you're not in them, so everything you see and feel is to be done through your eyes at a distance. The other 3, all 3 of them, claim to be quite good in FSX. Coming to land Concorde, now Concorde is a bit different, but at least one of them had reputedly been flying Concorde. None of them could land it successfully. I put it down, bounced it a bit, but I put it down on the runway every time. I was also the only one, because we then put it into arcade flying mode, shall we say, and I flew it under the Golden Gate Bridge without hitting anything. I also did something else, but I'm with it, but that's in bad taste these days. And that is because of me actually having the experience of flying a real model, and the models, at least you got a better idea. And Concorde flies kind of more like a model than most people are used to flying in FSX, so it doesn't actually give you that ability. Some of the new ones, perhaps, that are out, and I'm trying to think, some of the study level aircraft, which are where the physics are extremely accurate, and you've got virtually every system is simulated. I suspect they're quite good, but. And yes, you're Freeze right there as well. The bigger things are easier to fly than the small things. All the Concorde pilots I talked to, and there was a few around, and I've seen on forums, they all love flying it, and it is kind of like flying a sports car. They actually most of them love flying the. Whilst they love flying the commercial routes, they really loved flying the Joy Flight ones, where they hire it, because generally speaking, there's no luggage on board, and they've probably only got a third of a load of fuel, and the thing is like a sports car. They actually describe it as flying a sports car in that sort of thing scenario, because you slam the throttles forward and the thing goes even without reheats and things like that. So it's technology wise, it still is an amazing aircraft. Yeah, no, and it really is. I got to sit in the cockpit during takeoff of the real Concorde from Rovaniemi in Lapland at night. And that was an absolutely, because it was snow all around. That was an absolutely fantastic thing. I kind of won't ever forget that. It's absolutely an amazing thing to do. And as you say, it sadly just won't happen anymore. The only way you'll get that is, these days is to take your commercial pilot's license, which is not the cheapest thing to do. And it's not the same as being in the simulator. Sorry, in the Microsoft Flight Simulator or any of the other PC-based ones. It might be a more realistic experience if virtual reality comes in, but the flying the real simulators with the because you got full motion control on it. It's unbelievable just how real those things feel, and yet the projection, your computer screen that you're looking at now probably had more resolution than the projections that those pilots were using. But once you add in the fact that the sounds are there, you've physically got controls and you're moving, pushing buttons and things, you just forget the fact it's a low resolution thing out there, and it just felt so real. Indeed. You ever notice people talk about a 747 or a DC-10, but the Concorde? I have been lucky enough. There's a couple of airports in the country where you can actually get quite close to the end of the runway, or to the side of it. I mean, Heathrow is one. Typically, you can get quite close to the side of it, and there's a couple. There's one in Yorkshire, which is at Leeds, where you can literally be on the, in about 100 feet of the end of the runway, underneath it. And I have been there when Concorde has gone into Leeds. And when it takes off over the top of you, you can feel the earth move. You just feel the sound with those reheats going there, pointing straight at you. Because of the way it's going, and you feel the sound. It's not particularly loud, but you just feel it. It is absolutely breathtaking. Isn't the word? I can't actually think of a word that describes it. It is amazing. Yeah. True. I mean, I've never actually seen. I've seen on TV a shuttle launch. I've never been out there, but I have been at Canaveral when there was a satellite launch from the Navy. Is it the Navy? The military station, because Canaveral itself is civil, isn't it? And that's amazing enough, because again, that's another one that battles everything. But yeah, mind you, back when they were the space shuttles were built, it was kind of the only thing that they could do, and yeah, they need it to be over-engineered. You want it to know those people were coming back. Unfortunately, of course, that there were the shuttle accidents, but. Yeah, if you ever get chance to go see the at the Cape, see the astronauts memorial, preferably when it's quiet and there's not hundreds of school kids around. It's an extremely moving thing to see that big black wall with the which reflects the clouds. And all the astronauts' names are actually etched into the surface of it. It kind of, their names are in the clouds. It's an extremely moving sight, is that one. Unfortunately, at one time it used to track the sun as well, or track something in the sky. I'm not quite sure what it tracked, but it used to move, and I don't think they do let it move anymore. But it's still an absolutely moving is about the only word I can use for it. Absolutely phenomenal thing. If you ever get the chance to go see it, I would highly recommend that you do. Oh, I missed that. On the carrier, yeah, missed that one. That would have been obviously I wouldn't have seen it from Yorkshire, but I may well have been in London at the time. Yep, I saw the first moon landing as well. The Apollo launch and the actual moon landing, which apparently was at umpteen o'clock in the morning in the UK. So I was relatively young. I actually can't remember when it was now, but I was obviously up at the time to see it. And then of course when Neil stepped out and made his famous speech. That should be extremely interesting, William, to see. Which one is it that's out there? I remember was it the first one? Yeah, it would have been the first one, wouldn't it? Enterprise. That they kept the name secret until they actually rolled it out the hangar. There you go, Fee. I'm a bit older. I was there for the first one and old enough to understand it. Yeah, it is really, isn't it? Nobody's gone back. There is what, only about a dozen people that stood on the surface of another world. Discovery, is it, William? Okay. Yes, there is, William. There is definitely a point to going back. It from the fact it's there. That is where mankind has to go. It is there and beyond. I don't think there's any real question of that. Ultimately, mankind cannot survive on the Earth, really. He has to go out into space and other planets. Even if it's on slow ships and multi-generation ships. Yeah. I mean, if nothing else, the amount of technology that came out of the moon project, just something like that generates so much new inventions. Something silly, Velcro for example, wouldn't be here without the moon landings. Yeah, it is, Lizard. Especially when there's so much out there, just in the solar system, there's probably, just in the planets in the solar system, there's probably more. You could probably, and I'm making this up, but you could probably have 1 million square miles for every single person on the planet, and there'll still be some left over. I am totally making that up, but there is that much out there. Yeah. I don't know. I think it probably will come. At the moment, the problem is just that longevity of a ship. They push at the moment. They're pushing the Mars the Mars journeys are about the longest that they feel able to do, but I really suspect it will come at some point. Unless, of course, they eventually sort of develop the cryogenic suspension or something like that, so they don't actually need the multi-generational. Yes, so many things could go wrong, but that's why you have some of the best people that do this. I mean, they are phenomenally brave people. The people that went to the moon, they knew potentially they were not going to come back. Everything was done to it, but to get them back. But I mean, Apollo 13, they see that film for Apollo 13. That's the spirit of people that will take people to Mars and beyond. You've got Gene Kranz there, the controller on Earth. I've forgotten his name. I've forgotten what his title was. Mission director. His famous quote: "Failure is not an option. We will do this. Those people are coming back." And his book, he wrote a book about it. Failure is not an option, which I must read one of these days because I've got it here. It's. I suspect free there will be. I mean, they're getting closer all the time, and of course Mars is getting closer all the time. So at some point, it's going to reach close approach, and then I think it's something like a 9-month journey. There and or is it a 9-month back? It's shorter to get there than to get back, I think, at the moment. Oh, do you think so, William? Do you know how big the space station is? That's up there now. Take a look at a picture sometimes. I mean, there's probably only about half a dozen modules in it, but when you've got the solar collectors on there as well, it's one heck of a big ship. Thank you, ISS. That was the word I was looking for. That's an interesting concept. I'm not sure. Well, the Mars might be a different one, but I understand that the material science just isn't there to support it on Earth at the moment. There just isn't a material that's got sufficient tensile strength to do it, and there's going to be that there will be a lot of public debate before something like that gets built on Earth, just because once one of those things is in place, the amount of energy that's going to be in that tether is it's equivalent to several hundred atom bombs or fusion bombs. That sort of security of that is going to be something that needs to be really looked at, and there's going to be some interesting science done to just how you build one of those things. Yeah, William, but I mean that's kind of what you said, wasn't it? Or Liz had said about needing to do all that orbital construction. Well, they launched it. You don't have to launch the whole thing in one go. You'll build it in orbit. Any galactic ship, I think, these days, or interplanetary ship, is going to get built in orbit. I highly doubt they'll actually build it on Earth. Yep, that's an interesting one, of course, free. Printed construction. And to some extent, there's potentially no reason why not. I mean, the lunar module, as I understand, the walls of the lunar module were relatively very fragile, very thin, almost sheet I'll say aluminium, but aluminum sheet. You know, not much thicker than the stuff you put in your oven. Yeah, the space elevator, that, yeah, you're right, we're potentially, as a species, not ready for that sort of thing yet, but it's interesting. A lot of science fiction authors use that concept and of course say more or less the same thing, that the human race isn't yet capable of considering that sort of thing, because a lot of the stories are about disaster, people blowing it up, or just all the opposition, or just how just what needs to happen on Earth in order for something like that to even be considered. I'm amazed. I'm looking at this in the OBS. Well, apart from the fringing, in the OBS window, and it kind of looks like a moonscape. And I'm just scratching bits of board. It looks. This is one of. This is like a lot of my art. It's going to look a lot better from about 6 feet away than it does when you look closer. Yeah, any low Earth orbit satellites, yeah, you basically can't have them with an elevator. And that also, William, is perhaps one of the reasons why space will become more populated, I think, because of the amount of stuff that's out there. It dwarfs any of the materials that are on Earth. Just in some of the near Earth asteroids, they're the outmass some of the even precious metals and things like that. Yeah, your geostationaries would probably be alright for you, or anything that stays outside the geostationary orbit, but don't think they ever will, Lizard. They're too useful for things. I mean, your GPS, for example, is that's lower, relatively speaking. So it's mid-Earth orbit satellites, the geostationaries. You can't easily replace those, not without significantly increasing the density. If you were talking about balloons in Earth orbit, in Earth's atmosphere or something like that. And then you've got your weather satellites and your imaging satellites, and which are all used for things like farming and stuff like that. So I don't think we'll ever, or not for a heck of a long time, see the end of low Earth orbit satellites, and even geostationary these days is becoming quite crowded. For takeoff from the Earth 3, yeah, possibly. Although, take a look at the Aerospike. I don't actually recall quite how that thing works, but it's an amazingly powerful high altitude rocket for the Earth, and of course what they're talking about for use in space is ion propulsion, which is extremely slow but constant acceleration, so you can get some phenomenal speeds out of it. Heisenberg, Star Trek cheat. They use a compensator because you can't compensate for it. There's always a solution, Lizard. I mean, before you had GPS, you had things like LORAN, which was Earth-based transmitters. The GPS is just one heck of a lot more accurate. GPS is down to full military GPS is not disclosed, but I wouldn't surprise me if it was down to sub-centimetre accuracy. Even commercial GPS, when they start doing some of the correlation stuff, they can get down to extreme accuracies with it, and just about anything else on Earth just doesn't produce the same accuracy. Yeah, I remember reading about the aerospikes, but for the life of me, I can't actually remember how they work. They were looking really interesting. Take it outside, Frey. I'm surprised actually if it still thinks it that way. I know mine when I've fired. I've got some GPS modules here which I've stuck on a microcontroller. I did some work a while ago with one because I actually wanted the time off of it rather than the actual GPS position. And it was interesting. It started about a mile off, and over the course of about an hour, it gradually, as it picked up the new satellites, etc., and refined its fix, it came down from something like about a mile in the sky and about a mile away down to probably within about 10 or 15 yards. I was really surprised. Even it's a bit hard to tell where you are, because if you go by Google Maps, for example, or any thing like that, you're relying on them having aligned the maps correctly and things like that to position accuracy. But if I assumed that the positions I was getting off the GPS and putting them into something like Google Maps was accurate, it was pinpointing me down to the correct room. It will be interesting, William. I mean, the moon is already sort of international, but people are still trying to claim it. Not supposed to be non-territorial, shall we say? A bit like the poles are supposed to be on Earth, but people are still trying to claim sections of the moon. It may well be that what it'll turn out to be is whoever's the first to go out into space and drag an asteroid around to land the materials will be the ones that control it from then on. Well, that's kind of weird. I wouldn't, because conceptually a bike doesn't go any faster than a car. I suppose the thing with a bike GPS though is you've got open sky. Where in a car you're relying on an antenna which is either sort of generally on the dashboard or the back window, unless you've had an external antenna fitted, or if you're talking about something like just a Garmin unit or a TomTom, then of course the aerial is in the unit that is stuck to your dash somewhere. So the ones that tend to work better in cars are the ones that are actually linked into the car comms bus, so that it actually gets an inertial navigation reference as well. I suppose the really good ones would be the ones that they use in planes, because they're somewhat faster. But of course, probably wouldn't know too much about the tracks and, and roads that you turn the car down. Mind you, I have still had GPSs that have tried to take me some really funny ways. You do have to read your route, even if you've got a GPS. The times that I haven't done that have been the times I've regretted not doing it. Yeah. I think their boulder is still a fairly sizable boulder, but yeah, you've got a potentially a multi-megaton, or shall we say at least a multi-ton asteroid travelling at a significant speed, a significant proportion of the speed of light, shall we say, even at 1%. There's a hell of a lot of mass to capture. Well, that's probably just because it's a resistive touchscreen for either being cheap, or if you've got gloves that have got metal threads in them. It's kind of interesting. I start doing an art piece of a space scene, and we've spent an enjoyable part of the stream talking about space and NASA and things like that. And I was thinking the other day I did a railway engine, and there was a lot of talk about British Rail and and travelling on rail, and also it's interesting how the image drives the conversation. Yeah, the all-weather stuff, of course, is the. I was about to say is important. I was just thinking then, but of course you've got. The. I was thinking of orientation. The people who sort of go, not exactly like gorge diving and things like that, where they're in wetsuits and taking a GPS down a gorge and things like that. I'd have thought they would have been all waterproof that you'd need, but there again, they're mapping their position not following a road, so it's a different software, isn't it? Stuff like that. So yeah, £500 though, that's pricey. What about eServe, William? I mean, these days, as far as I know, they're just a commercial satellite launcher, which they appear to do quite successfully, but it's a while since I've heard about them destroying or having a satellite destroyed on launch. I don't think ESA even have heavy lift capability, so I don't even think they've got the capability to lift manned capsules. Oh, was it? Oh, okay. Not being aware of that. Yeah, I think you're right, Frey. There again, there's still an X prize, isn't there, for a reusable space vehicle, which is potentially close to being won by people like Virgin and is it Rutan? Losty in house, good evening, welcome to the stream. I looked down for a few minutes and up you pop. Yeah, it's almost your time, isn't it, Faye? I was thinking I might just finish the end of here and then start the helicopter, but I don't know whether to actually bother with that since I'll be, it's only what now? About 20 minutes. I might just do that off stream, but or do you guys really want to see me build a helicopter? In which case I might save it. There won't be a stream tomorrow night, by the way. I've got something I need to go to tomorrow night, so I will not be around tomorrow, but if people would actually like to see me build a helicopter, a model quad helicopter, then I'll save it until later on in the week. Then we can have a conversation about, I don't know, flying things. Save it for another stream. Okay, Lost. Is that so you don't get bored watching a helicopter being built? You can go away and do something else. No. There is, at least for a while, there is absolutely no way I can insult Lost in any shape or form now, is there? He says, pointing at the bottom of his screen. Ah, dear. I mean, actually, daft as it sounds, William, I mean, there is a heck of a lot of space physics in KSP. It's all, it's a true simulation, really. I mean, some of it's simplified a little bit, but the orbital mechanics and everything like that are, largely speaking, fairly realistic. So it's interesting. I suspect. I wonder how many people KSP actually prompt to go into things like the space industry and stuff like that. Mind you, there again, I also wonder how many car mechanic simulator car mechanic simulators prompted to go into the garage thinking that they know how to change an alternator or something like that. Okay. Well, it won't be tomorrow night, but I would like to finish it for the weekend because this nice weather means I can do a little bit of flying with it without having to get one of my others out. So I shall maybe start on Wednesday's stream rather than carrying on with this to start with. I suspect it shouldn't take longer than one stream to build. It's not a particularly complex helicopter. Unfortunately, I don't think it'd be possible to show it flying on stream, but I shall maybe see if I could take some video for YouTube. I'm still gobsmacked by the way Lost. But I do like your Tam O'Shanter. There you go, you see, KSP not only teaches orbital mechanics, it also teaches space construction. Well, if they can do it with a Soyuz and an American capsule, I'm sure you can do it, William, with enough practice. Oh, I guess maybe I should just mention for those people who may not be familiar with Scottish head attire, it's a form of hat. I'm assuming you wear it just because you liked it as opposed to any clan affiliation lost. Yeah, I'm doing it again, aren't I? I've just realised. I asked you the other day what you preferred being called, like Lost in Losty, or I know you said Annie as well, and here I am calling you Lost, which is not one of the things you actually said. I know. I think you basically mentioned you don't really mind, but you don't rescue your Kerbals, William. you launch them out into space knowing that they're not coming back. Oh dear, it's a wonder you get any to keep launching. Wouldn't happen too much on Earth. Yeah, but as I said the other day, Lost, being used to it, I kind of get it at work myself, but being used to it is not the same as actually liking it. Oh God, that fringing off this camera is horrible. I'm assuming you're seeing. Actually, probably not. Looking at my preview coming back at me. I'm kind of really pleased with that. I mean, that's just. I've not finished by any means, but I'm kind of pleased with that. It sort of looks quite good on camera. In close-up, it doesn't look as good, and it's one of these pieces, as I mentioned earlier, I probably want to be about 6 feet away from it, and the camera's sort of simulating that, but it certainly looks quite good on camera. I've just realised, Losty, I should perhaps have asked you about microphones. Mind you, you have a different usage case than I am, because I've just ordered one for here because I don't like using the headset. It makes my ears ache and my glasses hurt and my head hot. But so I've loaned myself the money whilst I save up for it in order to buy one. I'm hoping it'll be here for Wednesday's stream, and I can get rid of this. Might be interesting to see what it sounds like. I hope it sounds decent, but it's interesting for me because I kind of, you guys know me either by, a couple of you will shorten it to Zaragan or Zaragan Art, but it's kind of like that. At work they know me by my real name, if you like, and my wife, but just about everybody else calls me by the internet name. I potentially might know a bit of your name, Fee, of course, because of the Twitter, but yeah. I've got a Rode M3 on order. It was kind of a toss-up, but I kind of prefer an end-fire mic. Which kind of, well, sort of, generally speaking, and the desk layout here suits it better, but that kind of meant it was a small condenser as opposed to a large format condenser. I didn't really want a side fire because it would sort of get in the way on the desk and what have you. I know I could hang it from above me, but I really don't have the space at the moment to put a mount. An aerial mount in either, but I did get an analog mic rather than a USB mic, so at least I can either mix or amp at analog levels. Yeah, I was kind of looking for, in quotes, a professional studio mic. Now, there's no way I could get a full broadcast quality, or there was no way I was going to get a full broadcast quality mic, shall we say. I mean, most of those are in 300 or 400 quid at the cheapest. And it's really difficult to work out because whenever you're reading about, and they're all talking about vocals, which of course is singing, and then they're all close mics. Which is what I am now, I guess. It's all up against the mouth, but the desk-based mics, the interview or television studio-based mics, it's quite hard to find information on them, and I'm kind of taking a guess a little bit, but and at least I did remember to get an A to D with a phantom power supply. Actually, that's not so bad thinking about it because the M3 will take a battery as well. But dear. Yeah, I kind of looked at the snowballs, but okay, I'm a little bit of a snob, maybe the word. I'm not sure. I kind of like a mic to look like a mic, not like something that you should throw down you know, in a garden. I know they're not bad mics from that perspective, and yours doesn't sound too bad for you, except when you've got your back to it, of course. And I always have to turn my volume right up when I listen to your streams. But yeah, okay. Well, we can do that. We'll have to see. I'm not sure what this one is like. I've actually turned it down the other day. Baby Tears was saying it was a bit. I won't say clipping because it was just being amped, boosted by OBS. But yeah, there's a heck of a lot of proximity effect on that snowball. When you really push it, you don't have hit the base. Well, at least I've got two professionals that regularly visit my stream that at least know what things are supposed to sound like there to help. No, actually, William, I'd say the quality is great. To say it's working probably extreme range really, because they are meant for sort of most mics are meant for about 2 feet most, unless you're into some of the rifle mics. But I even looked at those, but they're too narrow. Two narrow patterns, so if I sort of move from here to here, if you like, I'd have a severe drop off with a rifle. So I actually think the snowball's doing really good. To say it'll be boosting quite a bit. Yeah. I was just thinking that your mic sounds fine. You sound terrible. It's a sort of comment that came to my mind then, William. I've never heard you, so I can't actually comment like that. But yes, you'll see me in a little while. Free. This is I've sort of done as far as I'm going to do tonight on this one. So I'll be putting it away, and then I will not be on stream tomorrow night. There'll be no stream tomorrow night, but I will then be on Wednesday's stream. I'll move that to one side. I have here you go, a helicopter kit, a little tiny quad. Well, it's not a little tiny. It's a sort of a small quad, shall we say. I've had it about a year. So I'm going to build that on Wednesday's stream. I think it's about this size of the box because the main frame fits in the box. Shall we do an unboxing just for the last couple of minutes? Let me take my gloves off because I don't want to get them dirty. Let's have a look at what's in the box. So we've got the usual instructions, not destructions, and safety leaflet. Some packing. That's the receiver. That should work with my model of transmitter. And then we've got 4 propellers, tri-bladed propellers. We have a battery. I'll leave these wrapped up till Wednesday. We've got the bag of nuts and bolts. Nylon nuts and bolts. They look tiny. Or is it? I was going to say, is that my glasses? No, they look tiny. A pretty dome to keep all the electronics tidy. And that's the control board, which actually amazes me these days. That somewhere on there will be a 3-axis gyro. In fact, I can see them. These silver box. Here you go, 3. There's your gyro. One there, and one here. In the 3 axes. So what else do we get? We've got the motors. They are, yep, they are brushless outrunner motors, which we'll talk about why they call that on the stream later. Get some tools, or a tool. An Allen key. Some ties, always useful. Some standoffs. Some sticky foam. Some more sticky foam. All the connecting leads. And the motor controllers. And more screws and plates. And that in the bottom is the... don't know what that is. Oh, I know what that is. That's to tell which way it's flying. And that at the bottom is the mainframe. Yep, lots of small parts. I dread losing one of those. Whilst that thought did cross my mind, William, we shall leave that language elsewhere. I saw him doing that. I never actually caught the stream of that helicarrier. 4,000 parts. Those Lego stuff. There's some they do some amazing. I'm going to put things away before I lose them. They do some amazing models, don't they? In the Lego stuff. So this should be, hopefully, a relatively fun build. Although I'm not quite sure how fun a build it can be with nuts and bolts that tiny. Because you can over tighten nylon bolts. You should not over tighten nylon bolts because they stretch and they'll actually snap if you tighten them too much. So that will be fun. But there we go. Right, I'm going to do the usual advert now, which is, of course, if there's been or is anybody on stream who is watching that has enjoyed watching me do Scraperboard and will enjoy me creating a model helicopter before your very eyes on the stream on Wednesday, then please or feel free to follow me. And if you are reluctantly unsure about whether Twitch will actually inform you when I go live, then please follow me on Twitter at Zaragon Art, and the details are down there. Down there. I've forgotten this camera's reversed. Down there below the stream, and at Zaragon Art, and hopefully that should work successfully. A tweet does go out every time I start the stream, and that's about the only tweets that I ever put out, so I'm not about to inundate anybody with them. I now encourage you perhaps to go over and visit 3D Bloke, who is about to start his stream. I'm not quite sure whether he's doing hairy stick stuff tonight or whether he's doing airbrushing, but you'll probably find me over there shortly, investigating to see for myself, because he's a phenomenal artist. And of course there's Lost in House there, who is a phenomenal G-Day. Oh yeah, you're a G-Day. DJ Lost in House. And William, who also occasionally streams as well. 3D animation, isn't it, William, I believe? Yeah, good day, yeah. I haven't yet managed to get one. I'm streaming too much, lol kid. in order to do it. And I just wonder what I'll probably do is do one based on the ZA that's up there at the top. Still funny angle on that at some point, and use that as the avatar picture. But it's just literally getting round to it. It's about the only bit I haven't done at the moment, as you probably notice. You see, I do remember. I do pop in occasionally, William, but I don't understand what's going on, and you're generally peacefully working away there sometimes with music. So I tend not to stay around too long, I'm afraid. I do watch for you for about 5 or 10 minutes at a time, but I usually got other streams going as well, so my attention wanders. I could do, but then it would be a case of which one. Yeah, who's the funny angel, Lost? I could lol, but then I've got there's 3 of them, so yeah. Yeah, it's because the camera. I am reversing the camera because it's in front of me, looking towards me, if you like. So I reverse the image, but it's in mirror, but it's tilted down as well. So when I'm trying to point, I've got to do a very funny 3D orientation, and I can't quite get it right. But that's the ZA there. Dear. I shall, angle even. I shall try and remember. I do the same thing. Lost, which is why I find it funny, and hope you don't mind. It's what people are interested in, William. Take the time to. It's a good thing to practice actually whilst you're doing streaming, because you're not having to do it in front of people. It's easier to do it on a stream when you can't actually see people. So if you ever come to do presentations and stuff like that, you'll find it a lot easier to do if you've had a bit of practice. So I kind of encourage you to do it on stream. If there's nobody there, then it's just like you're talking to yourself. So just tell yourself what you're doing, and it's less embarrassment that way. Yeah, well, as long as it's not a weeping one, that's fine, Lost. And yes, I'm off as well. And I keep doing it down to Lost in House, Losty. Okay, everybody, have a good evening. No stream tomorrow night. I shall be back on Wednesday at a time which would be 2 hours earlier than the current time now, which would be 8 p.m. GMT. Sorry, 8 p.m. British Summer Time. 7 p.m. GMT is when I generally start, as I say, 2 hours ago from now. Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.